You've obviously read what's in there. Motion. So we've all got the motion. Obviously.
That's your motion.
Yep. You want me to read that out, or just read the reasons for it?
Well, your 5 minutes is your 5 minutes.
Look, my reason for motion number one has come about over quite a period of time, probably more so in this newer council than the old one. General conversation with elected members saying, oh, I don't know whether I should have said that, or I'm not going enough to say this, and it could be something to do with their job. I might have overstepped the mark because of the, their jobs in life, their work jobs. Other councils don't do it. Not every council is on live stream. I personally have been vindicated, and I think I've told every one of you about a motion that was put on that I voted against, and I had a text sent to me through the meeting. Thanks for the way I voted. The next time I was in that person's shop, I got crucified again by it. Personally, I don't think I need that. These people have the opportunity to come and sit in the gallery if they're really concerned about what goes on. I guess I see that you've added in there, Tim, and I get that, the disability part of the disability access and inclusion plan as required. I guess, do I need to ask the question why? And I suppose you can explain it. We do have disability access in here. Is that what you're talking about or not?
Council resolved
yes,
a couple of years ago to adopt the disability access and inclusion plan, and in the plan there is reference to live streaming as part of access to the council meetings.
Yes.
So my question back was, in the context of a motion to stop the live stream, you would essentially have two motions that are saying contradictory things. So if this motion is adopted by council to stop the live streaming, I wanted to include into it that I would have the ability to then change that plan, because you can't have two things saying the opposite.
That won't be a problem.
I can do it. I mean, afterwards, it's for council to consider the implications for access to the meetings. I can do whatever council resolves afterwards, the consequences of the council to consider, which is why I just got some advice and put that as a potential consideration back to you in the context of the motion.
I'm also taking into consideration that there are quite a few people that do watch it live stream. I've spoken to several of them and explained the same reasons to them, and they understand. We as elected members probably deal with the public a lot, and there'll be people watching this now wondering why are we doing this, but I'd like to think that the reasons I've given would help to alleviate that.
Fair enough. Someone second the motion?
Oh, can we speak about the motion?
Yeah, I second the motion. I'm going to second it first.
Oh, my apologies.
You're going to second it. Councillor Ryan, seconding motion. Do you want to speak to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd just like to comment on that as well, because I'll use one example. Is at the moment we've got quite a few issues in town, and I know myself I've got to restrain sometimes on what is said. It hasn't really worried me. We've put up with it for X many years now, but at this time, in this since we've lost the card, we have got to be very careful because of implications sometimes. So that's one of my reasons. And the other thing is too that some people that work and have got to be careful with their jobs. So yeah, that's my reason. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak?
Can we can I offer an amendment to the motion?
You can.
I think it's important. What do we do?
No, we have a move and a second
Right.
original motion.
I think it's important that we have the live feed, but can we have it removed after 24 hours instead of having a library of live feeds like it is? If we're including the Disability Inclusion Act, then it does give the people that can't come into the chambers, an opportunity to watch the live feed, but the live feed be removed after 24 hours. So that there's not that bank of the people aren't just going back and rewatching. If you are invested in the community, you still have the opportunity to see what's happening within the chambers, whether you come or not. Or, but not have the reserve of, we right now had a look on the website, we've got 4. So the meetings are dating back to December, I think it was. So my motion would be to still allow feed, but to remove after 24 hours.
Before we go further, I was going to raise an interesting point. I looked back on YouTube this morning, and the April meetings had 40 people view it so far. The March meeting had 86 views. February is 61. So there's a lot of people watching it, not necessarily within 24 hours of the meeting. So, you know, the beauty of watching it live, I'd say if you went month to month, you know, scrap it up. I think did we scrap them after 3 months or something?
3 or 6?
I thought it was 3. At some stage. So 24 hours is probably a bit too quick, I would suggest, Councillor. I would suggest maybe.
May I add a little bit more to that, contextualize it a bit more? Is I've checked with other councils and they do keep it on for 24 hours.
Right.
I'd like to leave the motion as it is.
Well, hang on, we're just dealing with Councillor.
So we've got a proposition for an amendment
Yeah.
to the motion.
So we need a second
amendment. The amendment.
So are we going to, sorry, I'm speaking in turn through the mayor. So is this to remove it completely or to put it off for 24 hours? Is that what we're saying?
Well, at the moment, Michelle's proposing an amendment to the motion, adding in the words that it's removed after 24 hours. Otherwise, if there's no second, then we'll go back to the original motion and speak to that one.
So now we're looking at the moment for a second to Michelle's motion, amendment, sorry. Right, there being none, we go back to the original motion. I was going to say one thing. If you're getting bugged on the phone during the meeting, just turn the damn thing off. It's quite simple. There's an off button there somewhere. You just click that off and no one can bug you during the meeting. It's very simple. Put the phone away and don't worry about it. I suggest that we add, well, I'm going to put, no, someone, sorry, I'll keep my comments. Someone else like to speak to the motion, sorry.
Yeah, so, sorry.
No, Councillor.
I completely get where Councillor Nichols is coming from. It is challenging sometimes to speak your mind when you know there's consequences. So I absolutely get it. I think we've got to be, I guess by way of caution, we have to be seen to be transparent, and that does do that. I think there's a lot of people that doubt, and there's always conspiracy theorists going around about council collusion, all this sort of stuff. I just, by way of caution, that conversation is there for anybody to see. I think it's important that not everyone could watch it live, given that some people are working. They may choose to watch it in a week's time if they're interested in it. I'm really torn on this one because I like the idea of being able to have really honest, frank, robust debates in here that quite often lead to really productive outcomes. And there has been occasions where I've gone, you know, I work for the government, I've got to be careful what I say here. So I do get that aspect of it. I can see, unfortunately on this one, I can see both sides, but I don't know how to vote, to be honest. But we have to try to be as accessible for as many people as possible. And the fact that we've got a policy about inclusion is a great thing. And how that'll reflect back on our council, taking that inclusion away now that it's in place, you got to think about that too.
Councillor Bruce, you.
I've had a bit of feedback and I feel we're here for the ratepayers, and if this is the way we can get out to the ratepayers, I think we should continue with it. I've had several people saying to me they've watched it and sometimes they can't hear what we're saying, so they go back and they turn up their volume, then they can hear what we're saying, what we're saying. So I wouldn't like to see it go, but because we're open and the public can view it, maybe cut back the time frame that it's on the air but I think we need to be open for the public because we're here for the ratepayers. So I'm not here to hide anything from the ratepayers.
You know, there's a right reply, Councillor Nichols. Anyone else want to speak? You've had yours, speak. You've had yours. Anyone else? Councillor Nichols.
From my perspective, as a new member, relatively new member, I find it very uncomfortable being in public. It's not me. And I have trouble getting the right words to get my point of view across, you know, which is my problem, not yours. But when I have a conversation outside of this public arena, I say I get my point across a lot better, I think. And obviously we all bring years of community experience to this job. We can't talk about what we know a lot of the time in public, but it gives a depth to the decision making to have that knowledge or to share that knowledge with the other councillors while they're making a decision. You know, when you're naming names and telling stories of what happened once back when, that has relevance to whatever decision we're making, we can't bring that into a public meeting and name names. And so what happens is that we have a chat behind the meeting doors anyway, so that we know what we're talking about, or we have questions about things and we know that someone knows more about that than us and we have a chat. So we're not actually bringing everything to the table. But it would be beneficial for us to have an in-confidence portion of the meeting to discuss things before we, with each other, all of us, have that chance to come together probably before the decision-making time in public display. That's my opinion.
Just, and I'm not, just to provide a bit of context, in principle, in local government, everything is public, unless there are grounds to put subjects into confidence which have a set criteria. I appreciate it's not everyone's cup of tea to speak in public, and that's not my point. I'm just pointing out that the criteria to have things in confidence are strict within the Act. Otherwise, in principle, everything is in public anyway. And obviously the ordinary meeting of council is the culminating point of our level of government's calendar. So the discussion for council to resolve on decisions is exactly what you're doing now. So what you're bringing to this debate is for the public. They, in principle, under the Local Government Act, and we just had a deputation before, they're important mechanisms to ensure that council is transparent. Now, I'm not saying this in any way to influence anything. It's just a criteria on that, on just that last point. That is there a mechanism to have things specifically in confidence? Well, unless they correspond to criteria where you can put things in confidence, then the answer is no in principle. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else want to speak to the motion? Either for or against, Councillor Graham?
Yeah, I can see both sides of it, and the last thing we want to do is make those people that watch it turn away from let's think they can't trust us or whatever. But I'm just still worried that they're watching, someone watching just to make a show of it and see us make a mistake or something that they can take up social media and they can poke the stick up us. And I don't like that side of it. And I think if we're going to look to the future to try and get people to nominate to go on the council, I can see that side of it is a bit of a worry when they can see what happens and they don't want to get involved in it. So I'm neutral on it really. I can see the benefit of someone wanting to watch it. I can see them wanting to watch it, but I'm just worried that there's some that just can't wait for us to make a mistake.
Councillor Evans.
I would actually support what Paul's saying too, 100%. Is that's the world we live in now is also public, and everyone's waiting for someone to trip up, unfortunately, and to use that. And I personally, like Hayley, feel sometimes I'm concerned about how I might come across, so I will hold back and not say anything because of it being in the public. So we're not able to discuss fully. I don't feel in this new position at this stage confident enough to go further with concerns sometimes because I might speak out of sort and then that will be turned against me.
Has anyone got any evidence of it happening up to now? I know, Anthony, you had a bad experience.
I have several times.
Yeah, like I said, the easiest way to stop it is to turn the phone off.
But that doesn't stop.
Yeah, like Ron, they're saying instantly. Anyway, we'll all have a speak.
Still get that text later on.
Councillor Ryan, Councillor.
I think Councillor Jacobs wanted to move an amendment. He hasn't actually spoken to the motion.
Okay, you can speak to the motion if you want, one way or the other. Councillor Jacobs.
What?
You want to speak to the motion?
I think you want to speak
To the original motion. I would concur with what everyone said. It is really uncomfortable. I do not like being on camera. It's not something I enjoy. I can't even look up at that screen. It really makes me quite nervous. Also, we do have to be quite measured in the positions that we have. The disability inclusion, thank you. The disability inclusion kind of tripped me up with this one. So I am torn, because I don't want anyone to think that we aren't being transparent, and I want everybody to have the opportunity to be able to, whether they're elderly, whether they're young, I guess more for elderly. A lot of elderly people can't make it into the chambers. If I think of my dad, he wouldn't be able to make it in the chambers, but he's very interested in what's going on. So I'm really torn with this one as well. Clear as mud.
Councillor Nichols, you have the right to reply.
I appreciate everyone's comments in the room. I'll put this motion up for what I consider to be a very valid reason. Our council agenda is up usually a week before for people to look at, and if they've got issues, they're not excluded from sitting in the galley. They have minutes to read afterwards. They've got the ability to contact all of us with any issue that goes on. We are elected here as elected members of the community to represent the community. The way we arrive at some of these decisions that we make, as Hayley and Janet were saying, probably can make some of us feel uncomfortable on the way that we talk. I don't consider myself either to be a good public speaker. And we are very careful. I'm just so, we've got to be so careful we don't trip up and make a mistake in what we say. And as Paddy was saying, that we careful we don't get thrown under the bus for saying one little simple thing. But once it's recorded, there's your evidence there and then.
So, okay, we've all had a speak. Are we all prepared to vote? Those in favour? Those against?
I don't know. I just.
Okay. I'm going to say I'll vote against the motion for that very reason, that it's open to transparency. Public speaking will come with experience, trust me.
Can I call a division on that?
You can. Call division, by all means. Yeah, division's called by Councillor Nichols. So if you're voting for the motion, you stand up, and if you're voting against it, you stay seated. So we've got Councillor Anthony Nichols, Councillor Hayley Nichols, and Councillor Ryan and Councillor Evans voting for the motion, and Councillor Sleep, Brewster, Brown, and Jacobson voting against, and the mayor votes against. The reason being because I realise that it can be embarrassing, awkward with the camera, but believe me, as you get older and wiser, it comes natural. And it's transparency. Let's be people on to watch. The figures alone, there's been 40 views of April meeting, 86 in March, and 61 in February. So there is interest out there in what goes on. If you feel strongly about an issue that you don't want to speak on public, you can always talk to us, before the meeting or after or something. There's ways and means. Believe it or not, there was a period in my life where I was very self-conscious of public speaking. There was one thing that turned me around, but we'll know that another day. So look, I can understand this both sides, but I think the big picture tells us that we're far better being transparent, especially this current age of all the accusations we get made. And I notice there's more and more councils around Australia going online, going on TV, and some of them are quite interesting. But I think, well, for the time being, we'll keep going at least.
If I just,
Yes.
if I can, through your worship, I actually really appreciate all of everyone's positions, but just to wave the flag from the staff's perspective, I had this discussion at the depot. A lot of the depot staff and also the admin staff also watch the council meetings. As I said, it's a culminating point of the calendar. It gives them the opportunity to see the decisions that are ultimately going to affect their work. And I was pleasantly surprised compared to my previous experience of how engaged the staff are with the process here. So just a little flag wave from our team's perspective that didn't come up in the discussion, but it's just a little reflective.
And Luca, you can still watch the new council meeting regardless of the baby. All right. Councillor Brown.
Maybe we can take the opportunity to, or each of us, to talk to some of those people that watch it and see what their reason is that they watch it, and whether it's whether they're looking for a trip up, or whether they're looking for information, or whether they're looking for input. Because it just alarms me that we don't get anyone in here, and yet we've got all these people watching. Why is that happening? It's
I would say convenience, Councillor Ryan. You can watch, I said, you can watch Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
But
whereas,
obviously, you've got to be sitting.
anyway, we've discussed it and moved the motion. We'll move on. Next motion, Mr. Councillor Nichols. You're set 9.2.
One quick. We can't delay the telecast by 24 hours, can we? In case there is a trip up.
We'll take that on notice and see what we can do.
We'll take the question.
Notes, yeah.
Okay.
9.2, Councillor Nichols. You're moving that to District Councillor Ceduna.
Yes. Obviously, the removal of the cashless debit card did create a steep increase here, undoubtedly, and to be seen and noticed the removal of the cashless debit card. I guess that we will probably have an election coming up at some stage, probably in the next 12 months or so, and I just think we need to strongly advocate politically that we look at the reinstatement of the cashless debit card. It's probably just an extension on one of those 4 motions I put up several meetings ago. But I think we just need to be seen to be a bit more active upon advocating it, whether it's to the media or whoever about it. If the question gets asked, at least we can say that the council are strongly advocating for the removal, for the reinstatement of the cashless debit card.
Fair enough.
That's about all I've got to say.
Someone like to second the motion? Councillor Evans, you've got to speak to the motion?
No, I'm just agreeing with what Councillor Nichols said.
Okay, someone else like to speak to or Councillor Brown?
The only problem is with this is that the cashless debit card is still in use, but the fact is that people don't use it because it's voluntary. Yeah. And I would like to see some sort of a mechanism where there's say 3 strikes and you're out, you put on it. And I'm sure that when you speak to the services that are available in Ceduna, they all know who the troublemakers are.
Yes.
They all know who the troublemakers are. There's about 20 or 30. Now, why can't they be compulsorily put on the card once they've got the three strikes and they're out? I can't work that out. Because the cashless debit card is still in place.
Councillor, if I can, Jacobson might be able to answer that as well as make her own statement on.
True. If income management is the answer to the problems or a contributing factor to mitigating the risk, then it is available here. But it's not compulsory, and we've had this conversation on many levels about lobbying the correct departments on the measures that we just need. It's just a policy change. If income management will contribute again to mitigating harm, it is a policy change. So like with the Ceduna collaboration, can we advocate on behalf if this is the answer? There is a policy change here that can put people, it's all there, it's all finished, it's all complete. We just need to have those measures so that we can use them in Ceduna like we do in APY. Like in some communities in the Northern Territory, you can use these measures and they are actively working within the community. So if income management does help with this situation, can we lobby? This could be something that we could get up and running really quick because it's all in place. The staff are in place. The infrastructure is in place. Everything is in place. The thought, like reintroducing the cashless debit card as the old, regardless of what our political opinion is about it, that's a huge big thing to then drop this infrastructure and reintroduce another infrastructure. So from a cost benefit analysis, if it's just a policy change, I would really appreciate for the federal government to work on a bipartisan on this and stop playing politics with our town, because this is what's happening, is that we are having politics played in our town, and the outcome of those politics is there's no cohesion. Everybody is thinking that everybody's working against each other, and we're all wanting the same thing. Everybody wants exactly the same thing. How we get there, there is an answer here. If you ask the Aboriginal corporations, they will agree with you what the answers are. We're just using different language. We see it through a different lens. The Aboriginal organizations will see it through a different lens, but they are actively working towards a better community.
So can I take it that you might think of a bit of an alternative to what Councillor Nichols has moved? It's still on the same page, but a slightly different use of the word. Sort of like a blanket cashless welfare card to everyone, the income management card.
I would like to add an amendment through the worship to Councillor Mario's motion that the council actively engage with the service collaboration in regards to trying to move these policy changes, that for income management, if income management is the answer and if it helps, then we do have the answer here. That's a really long motion.
Aren't we doing that in one of my motions anyway? That we collaborate with Ceduna Service.
If I can entry your worship, so an amendment to a motion in principle is changing a couple of words to either tighten or focus at a motion. It's not to change it to the point where it becomes a new motion. So in the context of this motion as proposed by Councillor Nichols, is there something in there that doesn't fundamentally change what Councillor Nichols has proposed as his motion, but has the same outcome? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then I think we have the motion as written. Or it may be on a separate occasion there is a different motion.
Can we change the word from income? So the cashless debit card is a Liberal government initiative. Would it be possible to change it to income management, which takes the federal politics out of it and moves it back to income management without it being an initiative by either government? It's just, does the council agree to lobby for income management in Ceduna? Well, it's not. It's
for your worship. So we have at the moment advocates for the reinstatement of the cashless debit card. So reinstatement and cashless debit card are the words I'm looking at, whether those fundamentally change what Councillor Nichols' motion is or not really.
Well, the cashless debit, may I speak? The cashless debit card is the old, what was withdrawn. So that is a program. The ideology behind it is income management. So the cashless debit card introduced income management, which is the ethos behind what the cashless debit card, which is the program, was developed around. I don't know how to change that motion to.
Hang on, just a sec. Go.
Would it be pertinent to suspend proceedings? Maybe just to have a discussion.
I was thinking the same thing. Someone like to move it, we suspend formal. Councillor Evans and Councillor Brewster. Right, we'll just go informal for the next 10 minutes and we'll see how we
Yeah,
go.
that's
Still
good.
got some respect for the rest of it. So. Yeah, still
Let me stay on, but we go, so we'll go back into formal proceedings at what, 4:05? 4:50?
Yeah.
4:05.
4:05.
So,
Sorry, Councillor Nichols.
So could we amend it to that the District Council of Ceduna advocates for the reinstatement of mandatory financial management for
Vulnerable people.
at-risk social security recipients, or what are they called? Who's
At-risk vulnerable people, really.
Individuals that need, proven to need it.
At risk and vulnerable people, I think, is a pretty.
Yeah, that's a good word.
But that way,
But I think
it's not just Aboriginals, is it?
No, it's not.
No,
anyone
no.
at risk?
so. I think that there is no chance of getting the Labor government to reinstate the cashless debit as it is, but there is a small chance that they may adopt the pilot program that is in place at the moment and available if they choose to. That doesn't pick up some of those like old people that don't need help managing
People
their
on
lives.
disabilities that
Yeah.
don't need to have income
That are
management.
captured in that. I think I don't think there's one person in this room that would think I've become a better father or person if I'm drunk or gambling my money away. So for me, removing the cashless debit card was a really foolish decision. But it's only one component of a lot of things. It is a big component, but so was CDEP, and so are some of these other programs. So I think in its current form to reinstate the cashless debit card, I just think I've got no problem with the motion. I just think that it's not going to achieve anything. And if we really want to achieve something, we've got to be more productive in the language, which is around income management and helping vulnerable people.
I think you need to have everyone on this card, because the people that don't have drug and alcohol and pokies problems are not affected by it anyway.
Well, they resent it with a passion.
Right.
They resent it with a passion.
Yeah, but why though? Because it shouldn't affect them.
Well, it's
Because they aren't freely able to spend their money
as they choose.
as they want.
but then again, you've got to remember this money is actually
Not theirs.
government money.
Yeah, I know that, but the people complained last time was because they wanted to use the money how they wanted to, not how you were telling them to spend it.
Well, no, but when it's given money,
Yeah,
to you,
I agree thoroughly.
I
with
don't
you.
think you should have a choice.
I think everybody that gets a government handout should be on it.
Pensioners and all.
Yep.
Yeah, but surely there's a way, like, all the service industry know who the people are that are causing the problem. They know the problem, that they're what's got to be cured. It's not the people that need the help. It's not the people that out there doing the right thing. They don't need the help. It's the people that
They resent it.
got their marks against them.
Yeah, if I can, through your worship. I mean, so how does that encompass into
What we're
making a motion that's not going to substantially make a new motion, but will be an amendment to this motion to encompass this on?
Well, could we get rid of that one and then on motion, do a new motion without notice in the next number 11?
Could say something like that. The Ceduna District Council of Ceduna strongly advocates the current and future governments to adopt the cashless, the for vulnerable
Mandatory income
and at-risk people,
yes.
because it does affect older people. Like a lot of people have worked their whole life, but through whatever means or whatever, they just haven't ended up with enough money to look after themselves. And there's superannuation and all this sort of stuff that's available now that every employer pays, and that sets up the people that are around now should have enough money later.
Yes.
But unfortunately, that wasn't around for the biggest part of some of these old people's lives. And when they got to hand over a card that says Inju card, or a card that looks different to my credit card, then there's a stigma attached to that. And those people don't need income management because Yeah, sure, we've given that, but we give that free to help people. So some of I completely accept that. Some of my tax goes to help people who can't, for whatever reason, help themselves, or they found themselves in a position where they can't get out of it. So I've got no problem with some of my tax helping people. And I think the problem I have with the Inju card is it's a completely different looking card. So the minute someone hands it over, and it could be a lovely old lady that's worked her whole life in a shit job, and never been able to, or the husband has left her or whatever, and hasn't got the wherewithal to be able to pay for everything herself, so she needs a bit of top up or whatever. So I don't think those people should be caught up in this thing that it was originally designed to capture people who have gambling, alcohol problems, and through their own actions put other people at risk or create negative effects on their family or others. That's my opinion on this stuff.
And my understanding was that people that weren't on the card, that they wanted to go on the card for whatever reason, they could.
Well, and even people on the card could claim a higher percentage of their disposable income. So it was up to 8%. But he's still handing out cards that stigmatise you. If you're a proud older person who's worked,
and my understanding was that people that weren't on the card, that they wanted to go on the card for whatever reason, they could.
Well, you can see, and even people on the card could claim
the problem
a higher
with the
percentage of their
increase in
disposable income. So it was up to 8%.